This woman secretly gave birth to the child of a rich man and raised her herself. Turned out, 6 years ago on a fan meeting, the idol Antoni had fallen in love with a female fan. And Iode also had full of love in her eyes. Both of them got in a relationship. Iode even got pregnant with his baby. But the families opposed them because the differences in their identities. Iode decided to leave Thailand. After 6 years, Antoni took on his family business and became a famous rich man, but he still missed Iode. How could she be so cold? Right then, Iode also appeared at the store inside Atone's mall. Seeing Bank walked by, her daughter ran after him. While looking for her daughter, Iode accidentally bumped into Antoni. Both of them looked at each other with surprised eyes. Wasn't this the person they loved? Iode told him he mistook her for someone else. Antoni apologized then left. After that, Iode continued to look for her daughter. When she found out the girl wasn't with Bank, turned out she came to the parking lot. Coincidentally, Home also called Antoni for help. She acted like she was kidnapped. "Lady, are you not feeling well?" When the two of them got there, the assistant instantly knocked out a man. Seeing the situation wasn't well, the other grabbed Doll. When the atmosphere started to heat up, Doll pointed at them. This uncle is friend with her. She also asked Antoni what rehearsal meant. The truth came out. Right then, Iode also got there. Antoni looked at the two. There was a big confusion in his mind. He was about to step up to ask, but the assistant called him back. That night, the girl he met in the afternoon was all Antoni could think about. He felt like the girl looked so much like his first love, and her mom was also Iode. Could it be? Antoni quickly turned around and drove to Iode's house. Turned out, before, Antoni was Iode's neighbor. Every day, he picked her up and drove her home. They were so perfect at the time. Now it was only a memory in his mind. Maybe it's not you. After that, he came back to his old house. There was a housekeeper there all the time who was assigned to check on Iode's grandma regularly. Turned out this time Iode came back because her grandma started to forget things. When she saw the selling sign out of Antone's house, she wanted to get him and Iode back. To do that, she called Antoni and told him she wanted to buy his house. So Antoni came back to the house because he didn't want to sell it. He grabbed an axe to destroy the sign. Iode saw this when she was driving by. Afraid he would recognize her, she told Bank to drive faster. At home, Iode thought Antoni wanted to sell the house to forget about the memories of them together. Okay, just sell it as soon as possible. At the same time, Antoni opened the door to the house he hadn't gone in for years. This place held beautiful memories of them drawing, eating together, such a sweet time. Antoni fell into sadness. Why did he come back here? Why couldn't he forget her? She's the one who killed our child, a cold-hearted person. On the other hand, Iode recalled the memories from 6 years ago. Antoni held her hands in his and promised to be by her side forever no matter what. But now, she was the one raising their child alone. The next day, while Antoni had a headache from all his work. "Are you having a headache?" The girl suddenly appeared in Antone's house, but he didn't know it was his daughter. Antoni continuously asked who she was, where her parents were and where she lived. The girl only told him her nickname then ran away. Antoni was about to follow her when his housekeeper called. When he turned back, the girl was nowhere to be found. Turned out it was Mrs. Maui who told Doll to greet the neighbor. She wanted her to meet her dad. After Iode found out, she told her from then on not to do it anymore. That years, Iode as a fan, had a romantic relationship with the male idol Antoni. But they broke up from a misunderstanding. Antoni came to Iode's house. He saw a scarf on the ground. Iode used to tell him she loved this child a lot. Antoni promised he would give them a perfect family. But now, he didn't even have the chance to meet her. Antoni walked to Iode's house in order to find the little girl. Mrs. Kuhn said there were only 3 old women there and told him to leave. As a result, the next day, Mrs. Maui once again brought Doll to the back door, but it was locked shut. Right then she saw a helper jumped through the fence. From his words she found out Antoni didn't know anything about 6 years ago. This time, she finally understood how he could be so calm. So again, she tried to find a way for Doll to go to the other side. If they met regularly, one day they would recognize each other. On the other side, Antoni met Doll on his way back home. The girl greeted him and intended to leave, but Antoni stopped her and invited her for lunch. The innocent Doll agreed instantly. After bringing the girl back home, Antoni played with her and successfully got her name. He recalled the past. That name was the one he and Iode decided to name their child. Iode, Doll. Why do you know my mom's name? This time Antoni was sure that this girl in front of him was his daughter. When Doll was about to leave, he asked her about her age. Doll told him she was 4, but if the child was his, she should be 5 by then. When Antoni was helping the kid home coincidentally arrived. Bank was also with her. Antoni wanted to bring Doll home by himself, but Bank refused. In his mind, it was Antoni who hurted Iode, so he didn't want them to meet again. After Bank left with Doll, only then Home could react to the situation. That night, Iode found the toy car in her daughter's backpack, which looked like the car she saw yesterday. About Antoni, he was looking through the pictures he took of Doll with a happy smile. The next day, Home came to find Iode. Not only did she say Antoni was her boyfriend but also wanted Doll's DNA test. Home thought Iode wanted child rearing expenses. That's enough, I don't need anything from your boyfriend. Bank appeared and pulled Home out of there and taught her a lesson. Telling a woman to give you her daughter's DNA test result is insulting. Home only wanted to reduce the burden for Antoni but making it worse instead. The assistant received a call from Iode telling him she wanted to meet Antoni. He was so excited he ran back home instantly. When Iode opened the door, Antoni couldn't hide the nostalgia in his heart. He felt everything so magical and asked if Doll was there because she was his child. I only want to ask you something. The DNA test result right? No way. Antoni was so shocked from being slapped in the face. He didn't know what happened to make Iode hated him so much. She told him not to bother her daughter any longer. I can't do that. She's my daughter, why can't I meet her? Iode took the toy car and threw it in his head then left.